Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Policy Studies Organization. This panel is Considerations on AI and Law Enforcement, and we have two speakers today, Judge Butler and Angelo Brown. Judge Butler is a PhD student at American Military University, and Angelo Brown is a professor at Arkansas State University. And I would like to give the floor to Judge. You can begin.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is George Butler. I am a doctoral student at the American Military University. I'm in the Global Security Program, and it is truly a great honor to be presenting here today at this esteemed conference. I'd like to share a bit about my journey, which has deeply influenced the perspective I bring to today's presentation. I proudly served in the United States Marine Corps for 14 years. I reached the rank of Staff Sergeant, which is E6. Following my time with the Marines, I dedicated 25 years to the Maryland State Police, where I did have the honor of serving our community in various capacities until my retirement in 2019. Currently, I'm with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, serve as an assistant director. Now, each of these roles have provided me with unique insights and experiences that have shaped my understanding of law enforcement, technology, and the challenges and opportunities we face in this rapidly evolving landscape. I'm excited to share some of those insights with you today. So, a little bit about my background. So, I'll take you back to the early 2000s when I was a young trooper. And I was assigned to a specialized unit called the Interstate Criminal Enforcement Team for the Maryland State Police. At the time, the department was embroiled in a legal battle with the ACLU over allegations of racial profiling that dated back to the early 1990s. The ACLU had filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of Robert L. Wilkins, an African-American attorney who was unjustly stopped, detained, and searched by the Maryland State Police. Documents from the case revealed that the Maryland State Police had a history of targeting African-American motorists for stops and searches along Maryland's highways. This lawsuit culminated in a 1995 settlement where the Maryland State Police agreed to collect data on traffic stops, searches, and implement measures to prevent racial profiling. Now, fast forward to a particular day when I was out conducting traffic stops. Later that day, I was called to see my sergeant. He sat me down and, to my astonishment, told me that my traffic stop data for that day was looking too, quote unquote, dark. The implication was clear. I was being accused of racial profiling because of a significant number of motorists I had stopped where people of color. What made this even more jarring was the fact that I am African American myself. The insinuation that I, as one of the only two African Americans on the team, was engaging in racial profiling based solely on numbers was both shocking and deeply unsettling. It was a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges of policing, especially in the context of race and perceptions. Now, reflecting on that experience with my sergeant, it's evident that the assessment was based on a human analyzing data to determine potential biases against specific groups. But let's critically evaluate the effectiveness of this human-centric method. When white troopers stopped a higher or equal number of white motorists compared to drivers of color, what did that signify? Could we confidently say they weren't engaging in racial profiling? And did the sergeant ever consider the duration of the stops? Was the real issue the number of minority drivers stopped, or was it more about the quality and nature of the engagement? This brings us to a pivotal question. Can humans, with all our inherent biases and subjectivities, accurately assess such nuanced situations? Enter artificial intelligence. Could AI, with its computational prowess, better analyze those multifaceted factors to determine if bias exists? Or would AI merely inherit the implicit biases present in historical data sets, perpetuating the cycle and having dire consequences for targeted communities? We must ponder if the integration of AI in predictive policing might inadvertently amplify the bias analyses often linked with racial profiling. Today, we'll embark on a comprehensive journey, exploring the multifaceted world of artificial intelligence in law enforcement. And here's the roadmap to our discussion. We'll start off with an introduction. We'll set the stage for our exploration. We'll conduct a comparative analysis. We'll delve into side-by-side examinations of AI's role in law enforcement, contrasting the US and Brazil. We'll also touch upon the unique socio-cultural landscape of each nation and the implications on AI adoption. Theoretical frameworks will anchor our discussion. We'll explore two theoretical lenses: social liberalism, predominantly in the US, and social constructivism as it pertains to Brazil. We'll challenge the dominant narrative. We'll critically assess the prevailing narrative surrounding AI, urging a more nuanced understanding. We'll navigate the privacy paradox. We'll do a deep dive into the tug of war between the allure of enhanced security through AI and our deeply held convictions about data protections. And then we'll conclude by wrapping up and revisiting the privacy paradox and emphasizing the need for collaborative efforts to ensure a balanced and ethical trajectory for AI in law enforcement. So let's begin our study. So let's take a moment to truly grasp the magnitude of AI's role in our modern world. We stand at a seminal juncture in the evolution of technology. The advancements we've witnessed in AI over the past few decades are nothing short of remarkable, from healthcare to finance. AI is now an integral part of almost every sector. Its transformative impact on society cannot be understated. For instance, let's consider the realm of criminal justice in the US. A prime example is the New York City Police Department's adoption of AI-driven facial recognition back in 2011. This move marked a significant shift in policing strategies, leveraging technology to enhance crime-solving capabilities. However, with such advancements come the inevitable ethical challenges. The integration of AI in law enforcement has sparked intense debates with concerns about privacy, bias, and the very essence of justice. As we delve deeper into our discussion today, we'll explore these facets in greater detail. Today, we're diving deep into a comparative study of AI's role in law enforcement, focusing specifically on the United States and Brazil. Our goal is to unravel the intricate layers of how AI is reshaping policing paradigms, the trust the public places in these systems, and the ever-important issue of data privacy. At the heart of our exploration is a central question: how do people's perceptions of data protection influence their attitudes towards the use of AI in law enforcement? It's a question that beckons us to consider the broader implications of technological advancements. As we journey through this analysis, we'll be constantly reminded of the delicate balance we must strike, embracing the power of AI while remaining steadfast in our commitment to individual liberties and rights. The public is undoubtedly intrigued by the capabilities of AI. The idea of a machine that can think, learn, and assist in complex tasks is fascinating. However, this intrigue is accompanied by genuine concerns. There's a palpable apprehension about potential infringements on civil liberties, the specter of racial profiling, and the ever-watchful eye of surveillance. Now, when we talk about privacy, we encounter what's termed the privacy paradox. It's this curious situation where there's a clear disparity between what people say they believe about privacy and how they actually behave online, for example. On one hand, there's the undeniable allure of security and the benefits it brings. On the other, there are deep-seated convictions about the sanctity of personal data protection. From a regulatory standpoint, the Fourth Amendment stands as a bulwark, defending citizens against potential overreaches by AI. However, as AI continues to advance at a rapid pace, there's a pressing need to ensure our regulations evolve in tandem, always keeping individual liberties at the forefront. So shifting our focus to Brazil, the public sentiments towards AI in law enforcement is one of cautious optimism. Brazilians recognize the immense potential AI holds, especially in bolstering security. However, this optimism is tempered by concerns about the potential misuse of state power. There's a lingering fear that AI could become a tool for state overreach. In terms of privacy, Brazil has made significant strides with the LGPD, which aligns with international data protection standards. However, there's a gap between these standards and their actualization in the realm of law enforcement. It's one thing to have laws on paper and quite another to see them effectively implemented on the ground. The regulatory environment in Brazil is in a state of flux. The challenge lies in striking the right balance between harnessing the benefits of AI and safeguarding individual rights. The implementation of the LGPD in particular is a topic of much debate, especially given Brazil's diverse sociopolitical landscape. It's a delicate dance and one that Brazil is currently navigating with care and consideration. So, drawing the parallels between the United States and Brazil, it's evident that both nations are deeply influenced by their unique historical and socio-political narratives. These narratives play a pivotal role in shaping public perceptions and regulatory approaches to AI and law enforcement. Despite their distinct backgrounds, both countries grapple with a shared challenge. How do we harmonize the immense promises of AI with the sacrosanct rights of individuals? It's a delicate equilibrium and one that's central to the discourse on AI and policing. At the heart of this comparative analysis lies a universal quest, one that transcends national boundaries. It's the pursuit of a future where technological advancements and ethical considerations walk hand in hand. A future where the marvels of AI are harnessed responsibly, ensuring that as we stride forward into a new era of policing, we do so with deep respect for human dignity and rights. So, delving into the theoretical underpinnings of our study, we turn our attention to social liberalism, particularly as it manifests within the American paradigm. This framework, deeply rooted in historical and conceptual foundations, emphasizes a delicate balance. One that, on one hand, we have individual liberties, the cornerstone of American democracy. On the other, there's societal welfare, ensuring that the collective good is always in focus. Now, when we juxtapose this framework against the backdrop of AI and law enforcement, intriguing dynamics emerge. AI, with its unparalleled efficiency, holds the promise of revolutionizing policing. Yet, there's a looming shadow, the potential encroachment on civil rights. The challenge then is clear and pressing. How do we optimize the many benefits of AI while ensuring that the pillars of transparency, accountability, and individual autonomy remain unshaken? This is the crux of the ongoing dialectic, a dialogue that seeks to harmonize technological innovation with the ethical mandates that have long defined the American ethos. Transitioning from the American paradigm, let's delve into the Brazilian context, underpinned by the theoretical framework of social constructivism. At its core, this perspective posits that our reality is not just an objective it's not just an objective truth, but it's shaped, molded, and influenced by societal interplays, cultural discourses, and the annals of history. Brazil, with its rich tapestry of cultures and histories, offers a unique lens. To truly understand Brazil's multifaceted sentiments towards technology and governance, we must immerse ourselves in this framework. It provides a deep comprehension, allows us to discern the intricate nuances that define public perceptions. Now, when we bring AI to this equation, especially in the realm of policing, the dynamics become even more layered. The introduction of AI in Brazil isn't just a technological leap. It's intrinsically linked with historical narratives of state authority, surveillance, and the ever-pertinent issues of civil liberties. The dialogues on AI in Brazil are not just about the next technological frontier. They're at the intersection of these frontiers and deeply entrenched societal narratives. Thus, for AI to truly resonate within the Brazilian context, it's not enough for it to be technologically adept. It must also be culturally attuned, ensuring that it aligns with the unique ethos and aspirations of the Brazilian populace. Now, let's take a moment to challenge some of the prevailing narratives surrounding AI, especially in the context of law enforcement. The discourse around AI often oscillates between against two extremes. Is either the harbinger of a new age of efficiency or a tool fraught with biases and ethical dilemmas. But what if I told you it's neither? At its core, AI is neutral. It's a tool, much like a hammer or a pen. And its ethical and operational contours are not intrinsic, but are shaped by the data it's trained on and the intentions of its human developers. Now let's talk about efficiency. While AI's potential to streamline operations is undeniable, we must ask ourselves, at what cost? In realms like justice and law enforcement, the pursuit of pure efficiency might sometimes be at odds with principles such as justice, equity, and fairness. It's essential to strike a balance, ensuring that our request for efficiency doesn't overshadow the need for thoughtful consideration. Lastly, let's shift our focus to the public's role in AI's trajectory. Contrary to the dominant narrative that often relegates the public to the sidelines, I will argue that communities are not just passive beneficiaries of technological advancements. They are pivotal stakeholders with a voice that needs to be heard. By fostering community-centric dialogues, embracing a participatory governance model, we can ensure that AI's integration aligns with overarching societal principles, moving beyond a unilateral approach. Let's delve deeper into the dominant narrative surrounding AI, particularly in the realm of privacy and its global implications. In today's digital age, our understanding of privacy needs a significant overhaul. While data security remains paramount, we must also pivot our focus towards other crucial aspects like transparency, fiduciary responsibility, and ethical data stewardship. In simpler terms, it's not just about keeping data safe, but also about being transparent in how it's used, ensuring that those handling data act in the best interest of individuals and adopting ethical practices in data management. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and look at AI from a global perspective. While our study predominantly focuses on the US and Brazil, the challenges and opportunities presented by AI in law enforcement are universal. Different nations, each with its unique sociocultural and regulatory backdrop, offer a treasure trove of insights. By understanding these diverse experiences, we can enrich our foundational understanding of AI's role in law enforcement. Lastly, as researchers and scholars, it's our duty to constantly challenge our own perspectives. We must immerse ourselves in a wide spectrum of academic dialogues, ensuring that our analysis is both comprehensive and grounded in rigorous academic scrutiny. By doing so, we not only strengthen our arguments, but also contribute to a more nuanced and informed debate on AI's role in society. As I wrap up this exploration of the privacy issue around AI, it's essential to take a moment to reflect on its broader implications. For example, this privacy paradox I talked about earlier isn't just a theoretical concept. It's a tangible representation of the challenges we face in today's digital age. It underscores the tension between our desire for online convenience and our concerns about personal data protection. By addressing this paradox isn't the responsibility of just one group. It requires a concerted collective effort. Policymakers play a crucial role in crafting regulations that protect individual rights in the digital realm. Technologists and developers have the responsibility to design systems that prioritize user privacy without compromising functionality. And we, as end users, need to be informed and proactive in how we navigate the digital world, making choices that align with our privacy values. The overarching goal here is clear. As we continue to advance technologically, we must ensure that privacy considerations are not an afterthought, but are intricately woven into the fabric of our technological advancements. In doing so, we can strike a balance that ensures a digital landscape that is both innovative and respectful of individual rights. As we delve into our discussion, it's crucial to recognize the transformative role of AI in law enforcement. What we're witnessing isn't just a technological change, but a profound shift in how society governs and protects its citizens. The tools and methods we once relied upon are evolving, and with this evolution come both opportunities and challenges. This research has shown that societal perceptions of AI and law enforcement are deeply influenced by many factors. Cultural nuances, historical events, and regulatory frameworks play a significant role in shaping these perceptions. For instance, how the US views AI-driven policing might differ considerably from Brazil, as we discussed earlier, given the unique histories and societal norms of each country. Central to our discussion, as I mentioned before, is the privacy paradox. This concept encapsulates the tension between the aspirational benefits of AI, such as increased efficiency and accuracy, and the tangible challenges it presents, especially concerning individual liberties and societal norms. As we further explore these findings, it's essential to keep this paradox in mind, understanding that the road to integrating AI into law enforcement is paved with both promise and caution. As we navigate the intricate landscape of AI in law enforcement, it's essential to understand its broader implication. While this study primarily focuses on the US and Brazil, the challenges and opportunities presented by AI are universal, transcending national boundaries. Every nation, as it integrates AI into its law enforcement strategies, grapples with similar ethical, operational, and societal concerns. For those in positions of influence and decision making, policymakers are at the forefront of this change. The call to action for them is clear. Develop a comprehensive regulatory framework that balances the revolutionary capabilities of AI with the timeless principles of ethics and individual rights. For law enforcement agencies, you have a pivotal role. As you modernize your operation with AI tools, it's imperative to remain transparent, to maintain transparency in your actions and foster genuine community engagement. After all, trust is the bedrock of effective policing. For those who are in technology or technological innovators, you face a unique challenge. As you push the boundaries of what's possible with AI, you must remain steadfast in your commitment to ethical innovation. The tools you create should not only be advanced, but also respected and should also respect and uphold individual autonomy. It's crucial to acknowledge the limitation of this study. While this inquiry strives for comprehensiveness, my reliance on existing literature and a primary focus on just 2 countries might not capture the full global spectrum of experiences. Additionally, the theoretical approaches I use here, although insightful, might not encompass all relevant perspectives. In essence, as we discuss AI's role in law enforcement, it's a journey of continuous learning, adaptation, and reflection. And as we reflect upon our journey through this research, it's evident that the domain of AI, especially in law enforcement, is vast and ever evolving. Looking ahead, there's a pressing need to broaden our horizons. Future research should embrace a more global perspective, capturing the diverse experiences and challenges faced by nations worldwide. By harmonizing both quantitative data and qualitative narratives, we can achieve a richer and more holistic understanding of AI's role in policing. Central to all of our discussions and deliberations should be an unwavering commitment to upholding human rights and dignity. As we harness the power of AI, we must ensure that technological advancements do not come at the cost of our fundamental values. Revisiting our initial research question, we set out to examine the multifaceted implication of AI within law enforcement. Our principal discoveries underscore that the integration of AI is not just a testament to technological prowess. It represents a profound shift in how societies govern and protect their citizens. The trust of the public places in AI-driven law enforcement is deeply influenced by many factors, from cultural nuances to historical events and regulatory frameworks. In conclusion, as we stand here at the intersection of technology and societal ethos, it's imperative to thread with caution, wisdom, and a deep sense of responsibility. The choices we make today will shape the future of law enforcement and, by extension, the societies we live in. This concludes my presentation, and I really thank you for your time and attention. We'll have the opportunity later after the second speaker to take questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, George. And our second speaker is Angelo. I would like to give the floor to Angelo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, and great presentation, George. Really enjoyed it. A lot of overlap on mine, so hopefully we could collaborate or something. All right. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, so my presentation also on artificial intelligence and use with law enforcement. Specifically, the main focus was interviewing and surveying officers in the United States, but also I thought it was important to also look at the international context because many countries are seeming to increase their use of AI, machine learning, and other highly advanced technologies. So first, I kind of wanted to talk about why is it that artificial intelligence is seeming to be just more and more popular every year with policing. Talking with administrators and supervisors in police departments and other law enforcement agencies, it seems that a lot of it is to do with efficiency, make officers, detectives, and others more efficient at fighting crime, investigating crime, and increasing public safety. That's kind of at least their perception of why they're using this. Other things is to potentially create more of a fair type of policing. That is the one that's arguably not really what we're seeing as an outcome. Because of biased data, bad data comes in from previous arrest records and whatnot. It can only replicate what the data we know is out there. And we know most crimes are unknown. The dark figure of crime can really manipulate these systems sometimes. All right. So talking about that, so my purpose was kind of get the perspective of officers, of course, but also the community and others, because artificial intelligence, there's so many people involved outside of peace officers. You know, who creates the algorithms or the machine learning, who's like implementing that? Of course, it's, you know, used by law enforcement, but they're not really the real creators of this technology. But so far, a lot of them really like how it helps them on the ground. So a lot of them spoke about how important it is for their own safety. Reading a license plates, for example, you know, you can kind of automatically know who that car is associated with. Even maybe they have a felony, violent felony, that could really help officers perceive safetiness of getting closer to the vehicle and things like that. Other things mentioned is helping with training. You know, VR systems are now using AI technology to make it more realistic and whatnot, and the ability to investigate online cybercrime, various things like scraping data, social media pages, things like that, because these are very advanced type of crimes. Takes a lot of resources sometimes to investigate. So AI systems are really helping with that. And that at administrative level, a lot of them talk about how helpful, especially large departments, having chatbots, things like that. You know, a pretty large list of what they perceive as being effective so far. But the problematic things they are aware of. Speaking with them, they are very aware of the problematic issues related to predictive policing and the bias that can happen with that. And they seem to be trying to mitigate that with using discretion and knowing crime is not just where these systems are predicting it. And with that, a lot of success, it seems, with the gunshot detection systems and things like that, that it's not as common in the more smaller departments. And I also wanted to see that as well. The difference between small and larger departments, they have very different goals in the sense of using AI and their expertise. So it seemed like the smaller departments really did not have as much resources and awareness of how the systems work, because there's not really specialists inside the department, while large departments had really specific specialists like focusing more on how this technology is working. So I thought that was very interesting. And that was where it sensed that these smaller departments were not as aware of having systematic bias in these systems. So that was kind of what I want to delve into more is how this bias kind of shows itself in small rural areas versus larger ones, because officers definitely have different perspectives on this. So All right. This is kind of just looking at. I just was looking at like kind of the data that at least was shown from Canada. This is kind of what I found on their sources and whatnot. A lot of people seem to be very aware of concerns with law enforcement especially and AI. While looking at the U.S. kind of surveys and samples, it seemed like they were more supportive of law enforcement's use of AI, especially when it was in the context of crime fighting and public safety, um, which there are definitely a lot of critics in the U.S. as well when it comes to privacy rights, since we have a lot of civil rights and constitutional rights that it seems like AI systems, there's no real legislation or Supreme Court cases to kind of really make a clear, rule about this technology yet. So looking at how best to study this, what's important, it seems like there's lots of expertise that goes into this, and it's a really cross-disciplinary approach to crime and public safety in our country. So this is kind of what is needed to make a really successful program. Of course, like I mentioned, rules of law and whatnot has to be followed, to ensure that there's not illegal discrimination or violation of civil rights, especially Fourth Amendment. And to evaluate these programs, it's really, really important to have analysis on the impact of society, because we've seen some cities have gone away from using AI, kind of banned it or banned certain types of AI systems like facial recognition after a lot of backlash from communities. And from that, who's creating the systems? Oftentimes, computer science and engineers are kind of building these systems and giving it to police departments. But how much of these people, how much of them are educated in theory of crime and knowing the issues that these systems can build? So there really seems to need more of a collaboration of these different experts. And of course, there needs to be, seems like a big lack in the research and literature is that how effective are these in a sense of not just reducing crime, but in the sense of building trust and accountability, because that's another goal that they say these systems can help with. All right. So with that, one kind of goal and thing that some of these systems are trying to evaluate is creating intervention systems for at-risk officers. That's saying that if this officer is having a lot of complaints, sometimes that's overlooked because who's really looking deeply into correlations and these complaints, because large departments have many complaints, and with these systems they could potentially analyze those at most risk for violating people's rights and at-risk officers to have some type of intervention and hopefully prevent serious police abuse from happening. So that's kind of an important measure of accountability that we're seeing somewhat in some departments successfully implementing that process. The main cons of this, it really seems that it's potentially violating privacy rights, civil rights, putting more resources into these already disadvantaged communities, because it's just giving into that systematic bias that if you're already making disproportionate arrests in certain neighborhoods, the AI system is going to kind of confirm that and say, yes, this is where it's gonna, crime is going to be predicted, which they can justify that saying, it's a computer system, it's not us being unbiased, but it may lead to the same exact thing we've been seeing in our country. With that, law enforcement, we know, works with a lot of other agencies. First a big one seems right now is probation and parole. They're also using algorithms, AI systems to help with those risk levels of offenders or those on probation and parole. And they're having so much overlap with police because who make the arrests when there's a violator and stuff. Police and sharing this data is meant to improve public safety and whatnot, but there's very little, I'm looking at the literature, very little research on this overlap of police and probation AI use. And it seems like it could be a very good resource when used properly. But again, that can confirm bias and make it maybe more difficult for some populations that are on parole and probation. So I think that's something that's really important to look at. So from there, I kind of looked at the US is doing some things, the EU is doing some things, and the UN, have all their kind of guidelines for this type of technology. At the federal level, the US is kind of lacking behind, it seems, as the European nations and the different technologies that are implemented throughout both of these countries or regions. They had a very detailed list, a blueprint, they call it, in the EU. And I thought a lot of that could potentially help with what we see in the States right now to help build community relations with the most disadvantaged communities here that often have the worst relationships with the police. But they really looked into upholding human rights and having really strict principles to guide the organization of these different law enforcement, probation, and parole systems. To first ensure fairness, especially racial disparities we see with these systems, and holding officers accountable. So I just thought they had a really, really good system that reading these toolkits, a lot of it makes sense, and it's based on some good research that's been shown. And they've even implemented the AI Act there. So going back to the US, right now we've been seeing pretty recent use of robot tech that's using AI systems, which there's no data on yet really, just because it's so new. But other things is like using AI to analyze body-worn camera footage. That can be really effective. And, there's so much data with these cameras. It's really hard for a person to actually evaluate some of this stuff. So the AI systems seem really effective in this to at least get some sense of what's going on and maybe seeing those high-risk events and what may be causing escalations. And then facial recognition is one of the most maybe controversial things, and it's not too commonly used right now, but the federal level, ICE, for example, customs enforcement is, there's lots of news articles on the criticisms of that and whatnot. But it seems that a lot of cities at least have been banning these facial recognition programs at the moment, just because they're not as accurate as they were hoping for. There's been some studies on it that shows a small percent of of accuracy. So there just needs to be before full implementation. It seems like there needs to be a little better programming for that. Looking at more of the critical view of these, like I mentioned, Seattle, Oakland, San Francisco are like the big main cities that kind of went against using these systems. They implemented it, had a lot of backlash, and paused their systems for, especially for the facial recognition systems. The criticisms is that, these are just faulty algorithms based on poor data. And for example, facial recognition was very inaccurate for especially racial minorities, especially African Americans, it seemed. So that's kind of a huge problem. And then mission creep, like I spoke about, just law enforcement having more duties and roles with society outside of just criminal issues, it seems. So that's always, mission creep has always been kind of a thing that goes back and forth with policing. So from that, looking at the good blueprints and whatnot have been established so far, there's various things that, training, it's important to have proper training for these, because the officers I talked to, some of them, especially like I mentioned, the small departments, they didn't seem really to know how the systems work and the downsides of them. So having more training and not just giving officers this technology and making them go out and use it in predictive policing patrols and things like that. It seems like they should really know the potential for that bias to come out and whatnot. That these systems they're intelligent systems in some ways, but they don't really think for themselves and whatnot. So whatever data you put into it, it's going to impact what you get in the outcome. And with this, better training and just policies, because some departments don't really have strict policies for these yet. That can help mitigate litigation lawsuits, things like that, especially those civil rights lawsuits we've been seeing so far. So it's really important for police officers in our society, both can use these systems in good or bad ways. So that's kind of what I've been finding out so far. And just want to kind of end with, this is still ongoing research and whatnot, but kind of what policies and whatnot need to be implemented. It seems there's a very wide range of state to state differences here in the US with, policing here at the state level. But it's important to have some kind of regulation to ensure that, proper education of officers and maybe even the public know their rights and whatnot, to really help reduce these errors we see in the systems. And just having ongoing evaluations and audits of what's happening, what's the pros and cons of these things. Are they making it worse for community relations? Is it making it better? Or is anybody actually monitoring the data? Is the data secure? Because there's been some leaks where people have gotten, really private data from these systems. So all these things are hopefully going to get better with just more knowledge and education surrounding these issues. And with that, kind of what led this, just trying to find the gaps in the research from some of these scholars that I've been reading about, reading on, but that's kind of, what's out there right now.
Thank you, Angelo. If anybody has any questions, please type them. Now is the time to type them. And if nobody has any questions, we are going to end the session. We will wait 1 more minute to see if anybody wants to ask anything.
Well, Mr. Butler, I asked you a question then, if that's all right.
Of course.
Yeah, since you looked at, comparative with Brazil and the US, I know Brazil has more of a federal police force, if I'm correct. So it might be easier for them to have some type of standard legislation with these systems and whatnot. Do you see that there, or?
So one of the things that was really, and by the way, thanks for the question. So I number one, the reason, like you, I saw a glaring gap in the research. There was an analysis done by some scholars in 2020 to focus on this issue about privacy and perception, but they focused only on the Netherlands. And as you can imagine, the sociocultural dynamics is completely, it's just not generalized enough for this research. So I decided to look at two completely different cultures. And the reason I picked Brazil, I think I could have picked almost any country in South America because of what we talked about as far as the theoretical framework of social constructivism. To your question, the issue is because the federal police can be very heavy-handed at times, it causes that distrust of AI or anything, any tool the police use. However, is still a culture that's built on what societal norms are. So it's really hard to say what can be accepted, what's not. So if, for example, if the media, social media is saying that AI is safe and it's can be trusted, and this is sort of what's been fed to the populace, something tells me, and they'll go along, that would be an acceptable thing, because the you know, again, through the lenses of social constructivism. Again, admittedly, there's probably some counter argument to that, based on the state heavy-handedness in the past. But I thought it was a good, at least a good perspective, which is much different than here in the U.S. You know, I hope I'd answer your question. I wasn't sure.
Oh, definitely. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you know, that's kind of what I was thinking, but yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much.
If nobody has any questions, we are going to end the session. Thank you so much, Angelo and George, for a wonderful presentation.
It was
Bye-bye.
a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.